Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I'm John, back in the home of the brave this week, and my co-host is Andy, who remains in Canada. We're talking episode 2 of Millennials vs. Gen X this week. Andy, how does it feel to be in an inferior country?
You say that while watching what's going on in yours? I'm sorry, I think you guys just put on a show this week and nobody watching it is like, man, I'm jealous of America.
You know what? I brought home some ketchup chips, and even my kids were like, no thanks, pass.
It's an acquired taste.
I guess so. My kids were not interested in acquiring it.
Probably for the best.
Yep.
It could have been a disaster. They could have been like, Daddy, these are the best things I've ever had. I will eat nothing but these.
Right. And then I'll be like, well, bad news.
I mean, we could do another podcast just talking about Canadian food. I think that got a big reaction. But we could also, just maybe, talk about what happened this week, because I feel like there was some reaction on the internet.
Well, the two things the internet loves most are discussing Canadian snack foods and Maury. And we lost one of those things this week. I lost both of those things this week.
Everything's out of your life.
Yes.
All good. Yeah, no, I never get to watch the episodes live, so unfortunately, I didn't get to see all the reactions live, and I didn't bother scrolling back for a lot of them. But I can imagine there were some upset people, because apparently everybody thought that this was the winner.
Yeah, everyone was all aboard the Maury winner train. We just do a fantasy league where you can pick players, and she was the most popular player in our league. We don't really do winner picks, or did we? We did a winner pick.
We did winner pick. Neither of us had her, because we're a genius. But
yeah, we didn't.
Our listeners did, though. She was the winner of our little vote there. So when it happened for me, obviously there's the mixed feeling of, I like Maury better than the person who was supposed to go home. But because I'm kind of a jerk, I was also like, this is so great. I love that this happened to all the people who were nice enough to listen to my show.
Well, personally, I liked Maury. She was one of the ones that I liked from the Millennials tribe. Just in general, I liked that tribe better. But even though I liked her, I like good episodes of Survivor more. And I thought this one was entertaining.
I thought it was really good. Especially, at the end, which I think we're going to spend almost all our podcast talking about basically what happened at the end.
Sure.
Because, it all came together and it was just like, what? Except first you're like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, Survivor. You have to throw
the red herring.
A little doubt. Yeah, the herring. But, this is obvious. And then there's a bit of that. It's like, maybe it's too obvious. And then it starts together and like, this is good. And there's part of me, it's like, I wish it wasn't Maury, but at the same time, it's not like I really wanted it to be Zeke or Adam either. So it's like, sure, Maury. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I think the signs started coming up, like Maury giving the confessional, and Zeke is excited for tribal council, and you start to think, wow, that's weird, because, the hubris edit is a thing, and that they would love to do for people getting voted out. But come on, it couldn't be her, though, because the numbers are so on their side. They're not even going to split a vote. They should be totally safe. And then just these little things keep adding up, and you say, oh, wow, I think it's actually Maury. And it is. Yeah.
So who gets credit for this? Because, it was fairly substantial. I don't think they were messing with us. I think the vote was on Figgy, and then it wasn't. So, who are you prepared to give credit to? And probably more interesting for me is, are you going to be willing to say nice things about any of these people?
Yeah, and for me, I'd say Michelle was the kingpin here. And I give credit where it's due. She definitely elevated my opinion of her, but in fairness, it had nowhere to go but up. It was a great episode for her. I thought she was shockingly competent, and credit to Jay, who exceeded my expectations. Again, very low bar. Jay, of that trio, was probably the most impressive. Despite them staying on the island, I don't think that Figgy and Taylor did anything to elevate themselves in my eyes, though.
No, and I won't say that Figgy did nothing. She was involved in the discussion with Michaela, but so she did something. At least she did enough not to mess it up. But that was mostly Jay's work. But yeah, I came away from this episode really impressed by Michelle. She is quickly shooting up to the top of the people I like the most, because I am just a dirty bandwagon fan who cheers for who's good. That's all I care about. Because yeah, I thought it was masterful. Jay approached her, is like, well, we're losing Figgy. And she's just like, no, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, okay, that's cute. But no, it wasn't going to happen. She made sure it wouldn't happen. And that was impressive.
Yeah, she pulled numbers to her side and went from a minority alliance to the majority. And I didn't think she had it in her. And I really didn't think she had it in her, considering who she was paired up with. It's like when Malcolm was with Reynolds and Eddie, and you're like, okay, so it's basically Malcolm.
Yeah, like even if she had game, she had such anchors to be working with.
Right.
You know? And yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, even last week when we were discussing, this Triforce +1 or whatever, I was saying, like, I laid out the case that this doesn't necessarily mean doom. We've seen this situation actually work out for people, but I was like, but I think they're going to need some time. But no, it came to be right here, and I guess all the time Michelle needed was however many hours there was between Challenge and Tribal Council, and I think she's going to be a major player, and I think part of it is behind the cold affect and the dead eyes is like a killer. I think she's just ready to strike, because it was just, she read the social cues that she needed. She and Jay, so yeah, we will give them a little bit of credit, figured out the targets of who to approach. And frankly, when they were listing targets, I'm like, good luck with that. I'm like, well, sure, but Michaela, really? But no, they got it done, and frankly was able to gild the lily later on at Tribal Council.
Yeah, and credit where it's due. They actually had a secret scene about this last week, but Michelle has been laying the foundation. They had a scene with her and Hannah last week. They apparently have been talking about puppies and butts for a week. So they've got some sort of relationship where Hannah felt comfortable enough to just blindly trust her at Tribal Council with switching a vote. So there was some foundation there. She does have some sort of social game.
Yeah, so like that obviously wasn't the deciding vote, but it's a moment, and I think it's worth discussing. What do you think was going on there? Like, what do you think of Hannah's decision to go there and Michelle's ability to do that?
Well, just about the move in general, I liked it. It was very interesting because it's really risky.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could probably only get away with it once, because it's most likely it's going to cause a lot of friction in the future. But if you really need that one vote, and she might have felt that she did, maybe she didn't know that Michaela was with them, whatever it was. But if they really needed that one vote, it puts a whole lot of pressure on the person in Hannah's spot, in this case Hannah, because, if you just tell her, hey, listen, we've got the numbers, we're voting Mari, just trust me and do it. At that point, unless she totally wants to blow up her spot, and then that's the counter move there. This is the one I came up with, is if you're really nervous about this and you're like, okay, I don't feel this is a bad idea for me, I got a bad vibe, I think you just probably blurt out at Tribal Council if you're Hannah and say, guys, Michelle's trying to tell me to vote Mari. Is that what we're doing? Because this wasn't the plan.
Yeah, and I think it all kind of gets back to what you were saying, the relationship that Michelle had already established with Hannah. I think most people walked away from last episode, totally focused on the Freaks and Geeks thing. One, that got a little bit more play than the Michelle Hannah discussion about Michelle being a missionary. But I think also because, frankly, the people who listen to our show and talk about it on the internet wanted that alliance to happen with the Freaks and Geeks. Like, yes, all the people I like versus the people I don't. But I think, yeah, Michelle has been forming relationships. She probably had formed one with Will enough to be able to talk to him about the way she did. And so I think that's how she's able to do it at Tribal Council. And to your point about doing it, you might only get a move like that once. I think you only get it maybe like the first time. Cause, as been said many times about Survivor, alliances aren't solidified until Tribal Council, right? So I think she's able to manipulate Hannah, because, Hannah feels like she's somebody she can talk to, and maybe that Michelle's speaking to her as a friend. But B, Hannah doesn't know who's really on her side and who's on what side until that vote goes down. All she knows is the two people that's sitting next to her, the only two people she can really communicate with, unless she does what you says and blows up the spot, or being like, yeah, this is what's going down.
Yeah, and the seating position was pretty crucial there. I wonder if that was intentional. But she had nowhere to turn. It's not like she could have turned to Adam and been like, yo, Adam, why are they saying this to me? She'd have to yell it to him.
Yeah, and I think the show set this up well too. When Michelle, prior to Tribal Council, was saying she might have to make a move at Tribal Council. She might have to do something big. So I do believe, yeah, it's not this move because, to your point, I think it's opportunistic. I don't know if they got to decide who sat where. I'm not sure that Hannah would decide to sit there. Frankly, I'm not sure that necessarily the show strictly put people in there where they wanted them, but it might have just more like, that's where they walked in and it's time to sit down. And maybe they're not smart enough to be like, oh, I need to sit by this person. But I think that Michelle was prepared to do something at Tribal Council to help that make it happen. And yeah, if you were sitting at that Tribal Council, I don't know how confident you'd feel about Michaela being on board, right?
Yeah. And I mean, in Hannah's position too, you don't have much time to make that decision. You can't consult with anybody. I don't blame Hannah for doing what she did, and I also don't blame Michelle for doing what she did because you can't know, and also it really can't hurt at that point because it's unlikely that Hannah is going to blurt it out and blow up your spot. Try to pull in that vote just in case Michaela or Will or anybody else wasn't solid with you.
Yeah, no, Michelle just exercised excellent social pressure without, I think, overexerting it. I think now she gets to play this off like, Hannah, I saved you. You're now one of us. You're not out in the cold like Zeke and Adam were. And now Hannah is yet another person that could be more loyal to Michelle than she is to anyone else. Just as, that's why she wasn't going to let Figgy go, because Figgy is loyal to her. Obviously, and Taylor and Jay, but that's somebody there. Michelle wasn't very interested in surrendering power this episode, and she went out there and made it happen. And yeah, to your point, I don't really blame Hannah. I don't credit her for making the move either. Clearly, this shows that she's somebody who can be, pressured to do what you want her to do, and that isn't strong enough in her convictions. I'm not there. I don't know how strong she could feel. Maybe there wasn't good enough reassurance from the other side, and I could totally see when you're on there. It's like, what? How is this even happening? Which is, of course, what makes it such a great move is that you don't give her any time to think about it. What do you think about her indecision at the booth, which Jeff Probst has gone on to say is like, yeah, that was probably the longest anybody's ever taken to cast a.
Yeah, he said that it was legitimately minutes that they were sitting out there. It wasn't just, she took 30 seconds. Really bad call, although I understand it, but you kind of have to commit before you go up there because it's getting pretty obvious to the other people that are out there. Although if she was one of the last to vote, I guess it doesn't necessarily matter. But it clearly shows that you were waffling on your decision, which is bad no matter which side you end up on.
Yeah, there's some people that have been comparing it to Aubrey last season when she crossed out Julia's name. I don't think it's quite that far, and I don't think it'll do as much damage, and in part because of how it came to be and how it was involved. Aubrey knew who she should be voting for, or knew which side she was supposed to take before she got to Tribal Council, and then didn't make the decision. Hannah had all of a few minutes and was trying to piece it all together. And I think I totally understood her struggle because she's just trying to figure, how did this happen? And I think she was even like, are they testing my loyalty? Is it really about Mari, or I'm just doing this? And, so I don't think it'll hurt her as much. I don't know if Figgy would be that, vindictive about it, frankly, or frankly care that much. But it certainly doesn't help. I'll say that. And I will say that, while I sympathize with everything she did, and I can understand on a human level where she got to that place, nothing about the way she handled herself impressed me.
Yeah, not a good look. Yeah, but let's point some fingers. Whose fault is it that Mari went home here?
Yeah, I guess the first question is it Mari's, right? Usually if somebody went home, it's like, what did you do wrong? I don't think it was necessarily a case that she got screwed up to the point where everything turned on her. I do believe it's, very much more credit to Michelle and Jay for making it happen. But yeah, I think if you had to point at anybody from what we saw in the edit, I think Zeke was the one that, screwed this up. I don't know why you let Jay in on the plan. I don't know if he's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you probably should have had enough votes on your side even without Jay. Plus, Jay doesn't seem to be, although, to his credit, he was much better in this episode than I ever expected from him. Didn't seem to be the brainy type that could comprehend where you're going with strategy. And if anything, even after letting him in on the plan, maybe you do that and you just say, look, it's just because we're breaking up a power couple. I still like you, blah, blah, blah. Don't add on who the next target is.
Yeah, they gave him far more information than he needed. My initial instinct's like, he doesn't even need to know it's Vicky. Because if you can't figure out that he's close with Taylor, then you are not observant enough. And I understand there's so much more that we didn't see. And I've already heard that, the targets were flying everywhere. But come on. Obviously, Jay and Taylor are close.
They're the type of bros that would go out and they'd go bowling together or something.
At least they used to be until that woman ruined it for them. But yeah, it's like, obviously it's those two. And then we already know it's Taylor and Figgy. So like, of the list of people who need to know, or don't need to know, obviously Figgy would be number 1, Taylor 2, Jay 3. But yes, as you say, maybe you're bringing him in because you feel like you got enough and you want to still work with him in the future. But he doesn't need to know that second information. I know why you normally tell him that. It's like, well, you vote with us this time, and then maybe it won't necessarily mean it's you. But you don't need him to vote for you. It's like, you vote with us if you want, dude, or this is what's happening. They gave him ammunition, and like, clearly he could have just lied about something like that anyway, but he didn't even have to think up the lie. You handed him the ammunition to turn Michaela.
Yeah, he could trade on actual information and probably put on a more believable face because it was the truth.
Yeah, so from what we see, I think Zeke was the one that kind of blew this for them. But in the bigger aspect, I'd say, all three of them obviously didn't do a good enough job shoring up Will, Michaela, and Hannah, right?
Yeah. And I will say, last week we were like, why Rachel? It's, the other, that sort of effect. I don't get that vibe at all from this one. And partly because just of the possible targets, just look at the makeup of that Millennials tribe. It's much more diverse than the Gen X tribe is.
Yeah, and I do think they chose Mari for a couple of reasons. I think they felt a little threatened by her. So it's one of those, I'm honored to be targeted situations. Although I don't want to overplay that. They never went out and said, like, she's the most dangerous person out here and we got to get rid of her. Frankly, that was said a lot more about Figgy than it was about her, as I recall. But I do think that was a bit of the motivation. I also think that just, she probably didn't have as good as a relationship with Michelle. Because Michelle basically picked the target, right?
Yeah, and I do wonder if it was just that she didn't have the right relationship with anyone in that group, or if it's because they saw her as like the glue holding the other side together. And I tend to think that you're probably right. It was probably just that Michelle was like, nah, I haven't had any sort of connection with her.
Or it could be that Michelle recognized that Mari was the least likely to be manipulated, right? Like, I think Michelle is a real player here. And if you look, in her early interviews, how, we made fun of it, but how, she's gonna, like, manipulate men like the Bible. But like, maybe that's a legit plan. Like, she knows how to manipulate men and she's gonna do it. And that's not gonna work with Mari, right? I mean, frankly, it probably wouldn't work with Zeke, but, Zeke started fire and stuff.
It could also be that, she was considering long term which other people in that tribe would be likely to work with her, and she just didn't see it with Mari. Like, she saw, the other guys, maybe they'd be more rational and willing to situationally work with her or something like that, and just maybe she got some kind of vibe from Mari that it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, and in Mari's own exit interview, she said that she had trouble connecting with Michelle and Figgy, that she kind of retreated to her 14-year-old self and couldn't get along with the, pretty girls. So yeah, I think it was more that than any of, because I don't think Mari was excluded as a minority. I think she was integrated well into that big group. It's just, Michelle decided that it wasn't going to be Figgy and then it had to be somebody else. And everybody else was like, okay, sure. So why did those other people say, okay, sure? Let's start with Michaela, because that's the most puzzling of all.
Yeah. She throws the scarlet letter on Figgy and then hash it out for 30 seconds, and she's still trash talking her and rolling her eyes. And then she's like, yeah, but okay, I'm still good with it. I mean, I think you're the worst and I'm going to put you on blast at tribal council, but yeah, I'm still down with you. The one thing that I thought about this after the episode aired is just thinking about Michaela. Which group do you think that she's going to fit in better with? The attractive athletic Michaela. Does she fit in with the attractive athletic kids or the scrawny nerds?
Yeah, maybe. I think the answer is neither. Because, she was clearly not fitting in with that group. Unless maybe some of it was a little bit playful to begin with.
I mean, I think it might just be, might not even be fitting in, just might be identifying with.
Right, she can relate to their motivations and such more. I think it speaks to the fact that obviously that other group didn't do very well in pulling Michaela in. And maybe that whole, she'll be next wasn't just something they were telling Jay to make him feel comfortable. Maybe it was legitimate that it's like, well, we can get rid of her too. She's not really a part of this whole thing. Like, we need to break up the power couple, but it can be her. And if Michaela was able to get that vibe, it makes sense that she would flip. Because the other thing that stuck out for me is when Michelle and Jay are listing targets to flip, they think of Michaela. Why would you think of Michaela after everything you just saw?
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching the episode and 5 minutes ago you just saw her dumping all over Figgy and Taylor and them getting quite offended about it, or at least Figgy getting quite offended about it, you would assume, oh, there's no way they can get her. They're going to have to work around her.
Yeah, let me use my connection with Hannah. Let's, Will. Maybe see Zeke's. But no, they're like, that's a crack. She's somebody we could get. We just need to get them to make up. So I think legitimately Michaela was not really part of that other group. They figured that, sure, we can get her to vote for us. Clearly she wants to get rid of Figgy and didn't really take it another level there. And that's why when Jay and Figgy come up to her and talk about, they're going to target you next, that feels believable. It may have even been true.
Well, it certainly sounded like it was true from the way Zeke was talking. It might have just been a lie he said to Jay, though.
Yeah. So I can see why with all of that, and Michaela hearing these, just like, okay, sure, you guys are reaching out more for my vote. But I still don't know if it was a good move. Like, you already have beef with this person. She does not seem like somebody who's just going to be like, it's cool now. Especially because at Tribal Council, she did not think, it's cool now.
Yeah, on the other hand, I don't know that it's a terrible idea, just because long term for your game, was Mari going to be one of your closest allies or anything like that? Maybe not. Maybe
is Figgy?
I don't know, but I don't know that matters. At a certain point, you're not really worried about, Figgy outwitting you.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I think I would stick with the people that I'm not, like, openly sniping at. If I know that, like, I'm the type of person who will continually do that if somebody annoys me. Because I didn't get the impression that Mari annoyed her. I just don't think they were that close. I'm not sure about Michaela's ability to do well in this game. I think she's going to be great television. I'm already excited about everything about her. But I don't know if she's going to be very good at this game.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I'm loving her as television. But let's talk about Will's reasons for doing this, because again, it was one of those votes that, like, oh yeah, Will? I mean, I don't think we really knew where he was at anyway, but he seemed pretty eager and willing to flip over to that side.
Yeah, he seemed, even in the discussion, he was talking what a big threat Figgy was, in a way that, like, again, I don't know if people were talking about Mari there. That's us kind of inferring things, because we're trying to figure out why the clear winner of the season went home, in episode 2. But I think it might be the social pressure thing, When they're talking to them, you get the impression like, this is what's happening. And, and if you're out there and you just feel the ground moving underneath you, I think you probably want to, move with it. You don't want to get swallowed up in it. And I think it also probably suggests that Adam, Zeke, Hannah, Mari didn't do a good enough job with Will either. I think they left him out there enough for him to be a free agent and to think, I better hop aboard this train before it leaves the station.
Well, and I think in Will's situation, getting in with that younger, dumber crowd is probably the way to go anyway.
Yeah, I thought that's where the most natural fit for him in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't feel like the Harvard grad, asset manager or the head of his class Stanford guy or the, nerdy gamer chick. They're all a little bit older, probably a little bit wiser.
Yeah, Mari is the oldest millennial.
Yeah, so they're probably not necessarily going to click with Will quite as well, or at least not take him as seriously. At least the younger people might.
Yeah, you can just kind of hang, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I always thought that was the spot. In fact, when people are like, oh, those 4, we're going to be in trouble, I'm like, will they? And even like in the preview, it's like, I could see, because when everybody thought Michelle was a first boot, it's like, I can see Michelle, Taylor, Jay, Figgy, and Will doing something. Like, again, these are young people, not smart people necessarily. But it was weird that it happened because it's like, you already are in a majority and you seem to recognize the danger of, a power couple. So let's talk about the power couple because, like, how did they get away with this? They did, like, everything wrong.
Yeah. They brushed it off. Don't worry. These people, they don't care. It's not a big deal to them. We're millennials. It's cool. They get called out on it. They still don't seem to think it's that big a deal. Like they
try to lie about it like people are stupid.
Yes. I mean, it's insulting, basically. And it just sounds like Figgy especially seemed completely oblivious. And I think, like, Mari was actually right. They might have been able to actually blindside her. I don't know how she wouldn't have seen that vote coming, but I think it's actually possible.
Yeah, and it could just be when, you're a Figgy, you just couldn't, ever figure out that people would, a group of people would not want you around.
Yeah, why would anybody not want you to be romantically happy?
Yeah, come on. People are rooting for your success. Sure. This is just an impression I get, and I could be way off base there. Do you think maybe she's just a pretty face?
I have it on good authority that she's not just a pretty face. I've heard that repeatedly.
Now, here's a way that maybe they got away with it. Maybe you look at those two idiots, doing their thing and like, yeah, they're a couple, but they're not really a power couple.
Yep. And so that was my assessment of it too. I mean, I think the fact that they are not necessarily mastermind types probably helps them in this situation substantially.
I think specifically in this situation. I think this is why, like, Michelle is not worried about it. More is like, no. I'm going to flip things to keep them around because maybe she's looking at them and thinking, I can run things with these dumbasses. So, yeah, as possible. I will say that, though, as a word of warning to people in the past, I guess, because this happened many months ago. John, Mish, and Jacqueline weren't exactly the most shining stars, and they were able to control, like, 4 straight votes. So you don't necessarily need to be that smart when you're a solid 2.
That's very true. Although in that season, there were a lot of other solid 2s, and somehow it still kept happening.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of number 2s in that season.
Yeah, the whole season, if you will. Hey, speaking of power couples, though, let's talk about the Gen X power couple, David and Ken.
Yeah, before and after.
Yeah, I did love the video that CBS, I gotta credit them, the Survivor social media team, actually stepping their game up. I'm really, like, shocked by this. Totally blindsided. #blindside. They're doing well. They're doing some GIFs. They're, putting out some entertaining tweets. I don't know what world we live in now.
Yeah, and I want to give a little nod to my brother-in-law, Oya Guy, I believe is his tweet. He's like, the picture of them together is like, it's Steve Rogers before and after getting the super soldier serum.
Yeah, my joke on Twitter was roughly the same thing. Like, it was your before and after picture for your workout plan. They seemed like they wouldn't necessarily be a fit, but Ken talked it up like they just are two sides of the same coin. Ken, weirdly though, talking about how he fits in or he understands what it's like to be David because he's always been an outcast. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, like, was there some kind of weird deforming accident that you received, like, the world's best plastic surgery?
Yeah.
But good on him. And I think he was speaking from legitimate place, and it gives him the ability to have empathy with these, misfits. But yeah, no, it's weird. It's like, really? How flattering must that be if you're watching by David and, Ken is sitting there like, David's just like me.
Yeah, David's like, wow, what an ego boost.
Yeah, actually, I watched Ken's Getting to Know You video, and apparently he played, football in college, so, an outcast, really. But
yeah.
But what I like about it is he said he was the punter.
There you go.
And then he just quit because it's like, that's not really playing football. And I appreciate that so much because there's been another, former special teams player in college who likes to really act like he was like a real football player.
Has there?
Yeah, and I'll say that this is probably the only time anyone would ever mention, Ken and Tyler in the same sentence.
Or mention that second individual on a Survivor podcast ever again.
But no, I'm all in favor of this alliance, in part because, they seem to be set up opposed to the main group in Gen X, and right now that group is really dull. So it's nice to see that they're going to be shaking things up.
But more importantly, David, anxious weirdo David, found the idol, which, by the way, quick side note on the idol thing. They had said they were going to have the idol blend in with nature, which was fine, but the actual idol still looks like an idol. Why don't they just, if they're in Fiji, they should have made the coconut itself the idol in honor of Yao Man's first ever fake idol.
Maybe. I will say, it didn't look that great. Like, it looked like they just took a shell and put some rope on it. So it is.
But, I feel like they've done that before. That's like a recognizable immunity idol. I want them to make them look like crap.
Yeah. Well, there's still time. We'll see. What did you think about David showing his idol to, Ken?
You can use the idols in a lot of different ways, and we've discussed them over time on the show, but for someone with David's personality and mannerisms, I think showing the idol is probably a good move, just because David gives off this anxious vibe that's probably just going to make him seem untrustworthy. So just doing something that's a, like, concrete demonstration of trustworthiness or, of your trust for this other person, I feel like that benefits him.
Yeah, I think this was 100% the right move for him, because I think David needs an ally even more than he needs an idol. And this will ox one down, because, an idol at most can save him for 3 days.
Yeah.
Because he seemed very clearly, the episode told us very clearly that he was next to go. Mm-hmm. Obviously things can change. So having that ally, for one, can help open up some future opportunities, or at the very least can tell you, play the idol, dude. So, it's a risk, obviously. Ken can be playing him. I don't think he is, but, like, if you're in that scenario, you have to worry. But I think you need to take that risk. I think you need more than an idol to survive if you're David. So, go for broke. And what's the worst that's going to happen is it's going to buy you a few more days anyway, because, who wants to vote for the guy with the idol?
Right. Yeah, if anything, they might, split the votes and you play the idol and it worked out. It's like the null result. You were going to stay for 3 more days anyway.
Yeah. But I, just in general, I like this alliance for both of them. For David, it's simple. He needs some people on his side. But I kind of like it for Ken. He's for some reason been left out of the main alliance. My working theory is he makes them all feel inadequate. Well, sure. But I think his ability to work with the outcasts, in this case so far, it's David and Cece, might speak well of his chances of winning the whole darn thing.
Yeah, I mean, if he can pull together a coalition of losers, the outcasts and the misfits, and, given the preview for next episode, maybe that's going to be possible. Maybe that's what he's going to get the chance to do.
Yeah, and then those people need him, right? They can't just turn on him at the first opportunity like another group would, where he would be, both a threat and kind of extraneous, right? They would need Ken in order to move on, because otherwise they didn't have enough people. Like, they'll probably need every single member. And then when it's time to flip on him, I like his chances at beating them. Yeah. So, because I think the biggest threat to Ken right now is the fact that there's no hiding about how threatening he is.
Hey, speaking of every single member, a whole lot of people were very happy with the Ken photography this week.
And, putting aside the fact that, he's a beautiful, beautiful man, that was some great photography.
That was awesome. I mean, we compliment Survivor's, production value every season, I feel like, lately, but it's really well shot.
And this one works out even better because, the waters in Fiji are clear and beautiful, right? Like, it's not like, he's out there swimming in some murky water and you can't even see him. Or, in many seasons they can't even get out there. But to get back to it, I think Ken could really work this. And I think, another way that he can work with the misfits and stuff is, might be a few people is like, hey, wow, this guy's taking interest in me,
Yeah, sure. It's always nice when beautiful people will slum it with you.
And not just beautiful people, it's like, this might be the coolest person I've ever met. Cause if you take somebody like David, that, I'm saying anything out of school to suggest that he's a pretty anxious, socially maladjusted person. And then suddenly, the freaking prom king of kings is like, you're my guy. This is even if you came out to play a game, getting back to Mari's thing about this kind of reverting you back to your high school self, you're like, oh my God, I get to hang out with the cool kids. So imagine he turns that charm on with Hannah or, maybe even Zeke or something. Like, I think this could work for him, in a way that like normally I would look at a Ken and just think, like a merge target, right? And I still think he might be that, but he might find allies that just aren't ready to get rid of him when they should.
Well, we'll get a little chance to talk about Ken a little later too, but what about the rest of the Gen X tribe? Any interest in them?
Not at all. Not even a little bit. I mean, a lot of that has to do with the structure of this episode, right? So, like, all of the excitement and interest was over on the Millennials tribe. And then the only other stories they told were the David and Ken thing, and that is interesting. And then, Paul almost and then not dying, which, yay, we're in support of survivors not actually getting hurt. Not much more to say about that. But the rest of them, there's nothing interesting so far about them at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I want to know more about where Cece and Sunday are at, but it's not like gnawing at me. And I feel like we'll get that story anyway.
Yeah, no, like I'm not writing them off or anything, but, from this most recent episode and a bit to the last one, no, not really interesting. There was a couple of people last episode that were a little interesting that could be again, but right now, no, all the heat on that tribe is with David and Ken.
Yeah. Specifically, Ken.
Just very specifically. All right. So, as we said last week, what we want to do this season is, make this a little bit more interactive, a podcast. So, we solicited questions for a mailbag segment and, let's open up that mailbag.
All right. Our very first one from Brian H. Gold at Brian H. Gold on Twitter. Why do Survivor fans constantly think that gamers/poker players/quants will do well when all of the evidence shows that they are awful?
Yeah, and this kind of gets into, actually a question I was going to ask. It's like, why were everybody so high on Mari? Like, for me, I was like, I think she could be good on the show because, professionally, she narrates things, right?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing, like, people, keep calling her a gamer, and I'm sure she plays video games and thus is pretty good at it, but she's not like an esports competitor. She is somebody who entertains people with her Let's Plays, that she is part of a group that films themselves playing video games and narrates it, right? That's like her gig. So I thought, she could be really good on the show, but I don't know why people thought she was going to be good at the game. Obviously, some of our voters especially just, pick the people they want to cheer for. And bless you nerds, anybody that's kind of nerd adjacent. And plus, she's athletic. She did ballet. It's got to be her. But yeah, it's like we've already figured out as a community that like anybody who says their poker skills or their chess skills are going to help them as Survivor, we're like, no. So why did we think about it with a gamer who's not quite a gamer?
I think it's just the people that want to believe that Survivor is a strategic game. And also, like you said, the people that they can feel like they most relate to. Cause I'm sure the internet audience has a lot of gamers within it and has a lot of, the younger crowd watches a lot of YouTube. And so they can be like, yeah, I like her, or, they relate to something about her, or they think gamers, poker players, whatever, are going to be great strategists and that's what you need in Survivor. But the main strategy in Survivor is not how you run numbers or exploit game theory or something. It's how you build and trade on relationships. And the show tries to play up that strategic aspect a whole lot. The same way they try to build up the athletic and challenge portion of when they cast pro athletes. But really, if there is a job that helps you, it's something mundane like bartender.
Yeah, sales or something. Yeah,
exactly. Sales really helps you.
Yeah, it's like, what is your personal magnetism that draws people to you and how you can observe things about them? Yeah, no, and for me, when I was reading her interviews before the season, she basically never watched Survivor until getting cast was a possibility, which again, doesn't necessarily disqualify her. It's been several people who have been like that, but it's like, why do you think that gives her a leg up? I was like, she could win, but I don't know why people think she will. So, just keep that in mind next time somebody's like, I play a game with my mind, so that's going to help me in Survivor. Even if it's nerdy stuff and you like the way they look, maybe just hold back on the enthusiasm. I mean, I picked Taylor, so obviously I know what I'm doing. But, but I think, a lot of part is just, they want to believe, because, I don't want to talk out of turn, but there's a good chance that like more people voting on these internet polls are closer to being, somebody who talks about video games for a living than they are like, sex therapist or something. So,
or say a male model.
Or a male model. Should we jump ahead to that one?
Yeah, let's talk about the male model question. All right, Guis, who is possibly having a crisis of his own over Ken. Is Ken already the best male model the show has cast?
This is why we wanted to open the mailbag, because I think we want people to ask two very, boring, buried dudes their opinions on guys. And what's great about it is I have thoughts. So.
So much so.
First off, it's like, what do you mean by best, right?
Yeah, that was my question too. Are we talking like sexiness wise? Are we talking game wise? What's the metric here?
So I say let's cover it all. So if we're talking about like best looking, that obviously is something we could probably just judge now, right? Like, it's not like we have to let's get more data. Obviously we can see how much like island hot he gets or maybe not. But I don't know how much that affects you and I. Although there was a time, not that he's a model, but when LJ finally took off his hat and everybody's like, ugh, So yeah, it's possible more. I don't think that is going to happen here. But in terms of just, straight up attractiveness, again, judged by somebody who, is no investment necessarily in this. I'd say his main competitors would be Jay Byers.
Sure.
That's an easy go-to. And then, John Kenny from Vanuatu.
Yeah, he's been brought up before. I guess he was an underwear model or something, wasn't he?
Yes. And if you see the modeling pics, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah. It was the same sort of thing though when they said Ken's a male model. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I see it.
Yeah, now I'll say he was a boy in Vanuatu, right? Not a man like Ken. So that I think is probably a strike against him. The other strike against him is, back when I was watching Vanuatu, I was probably less comfortable with my sexuality to be like, that's a good looking man.
I think it also helps too that Ken is the older guy, so he can appeal to a wider range of people,
Yeah. Oh, actually, he is masculine, whereas a lot of male models are pretty.
Yeah, but he's also got he's the dad, and yet he's also muscular, but not too Brad Culpeppery buff. Mm-hmm. He's got that, he fits in a lot of different categories for the viewers. I was going to say for the ladies, but judging by our audience, nope, not just the ladies.
No, I was like I said last week. Wherever you are on the Kinsey scale, I think the attractiveness of Ken can unite us. Gay male, straight females, gay female. It's the whole package.
Phrasing.
There we go. So with that said, I'd say, yeah, I think he's the most attractive male model they've ever had.
Yeah, maybe. It's just because of, again, the mass appeal. Although I did tweet this out today, but my wife is kind of like, meh, on Ken. She says, I don't see what's so special about him. He's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can get it, right? I mean, yeah, you've ruined her for all other men.
I totally understand. I mean, once you've had this kind of perfection in your life, right, everything else will just pale in comparison.
Whereas my wife's like, yep, he's attractive. So pretty. So then if we're talking about game player or the best player of Survivor, well, I mean, the competition is less weak than, who's the most attractive, right? It's like, obviously we don't have that much data. It's been 2 weeks. He's never really been on the hot seat, but he did show that he's thinking about the game, right? I liked how, when he was talking with Cece, for one, it was a back and forth. He wasn't just talking at her. He was trying to draw out and letting, hopefully to guide her to that place. She wasn't quite getting there fast enough. It's like, let's ball, right? But then he was like, yeah, I'm not okay with him running things. We're going to do something about that. I liked that he was, motivated in a way that some of them in the past really haven't been. So who are we really competing with? Pete Yurkowski?
Jeremiah might be your next best on this list.
I was about to make that joke. It's do we have to wait another episode and see if he's good as Jeremiah?
Yeah.
The most successful male model in the history of the show was Fabio. But, well, he won. I don't know if we really need to hold out. It's is he as good as Fabio? So I guess that's the question. We'll have to see. Is he as good as Fabio?
And I don't think that we only have to use the scoreboard as the criteria for this one.
Right. I mean, can they bumble their way to a victory? Yeah, I don't know. Because, it's what is Fabio good at? Challenges. Well, we've already seen Ken be really good at a challenge, so. Hey,
but speaking of the garbage season that Fabio was on, let's get to the next mailbag question, which was from longtime listener Barbara Anderson. I like this one. She says, you have the power to eliminate a season from existing. I already like that I have power. So she says, which season would it be and why? But because she knows us, 2 caveats. 1, it cannot be Nicaragua or Gabon. And 2, if you eliminate it from existence, that means there would be no returnees or memorable events or anything from that season. The alumni couldn't come back and be on other seasons or anything like that. So I'll let you go first.
Okay, I was going to let you go first because I've been going first every time.
Okay, well, how polite of you. It's almost like you are Canadian sometimes. All right, so I think for me, there's a couple easy choices. Obviously, the 2 easiest choices she eliminated from contention, which was the right call. Don't make this too easy on us.
Yeah, so when I first started reading, I'm like, whatever, it's Nicaragua. This isn't a very valuable discussion.
Yeah, I mean, A, Nicaragua was horrible anyway, and B, if I could eliminate returnees, great! I don't want anyone coming back from Nicaragua, ever. Gabon was only slightly better, and I don't really care about how any of their returnees have done.
Nor have anybody who was on their seasons, so.
Exactly. Alright, so, contenders for me, this is a tough one just because of the returnee thing. So the easy pick is Guatemala, because you don't have to worry about returnees. There haven't been any.
Other than Stephanie, who, when they brought her back, it wasn't based on Guatemala.
Yes, exactly. So Stephanie wouldn't necessarily count because she comes back as from another season.
You lose the debut of the Idol, but they would have done that anyway.
Sure. And the thing is, Guatemala isn't a bad season.
Yeah.
So it would be weird to eliminate a season that's not one of the worst. So my other way that I went is I was like, oh, okay, well, One World is a bad season. The returnees that have come out of it have been terrible.
Like, the best one is Monica Culpepper, which leads to more Brad Culpepper.
Yes. But if you wipe that season off the map, you lose Khaleesi Kim's dominance.
And that's unacceptable.
Oh, it is. I don't...
No, it's unacceptable. That was such a perfect game that it belongs in a museum.
Yeah, I know. And again, the season is bad and the returnees are bad, but the one thing that you'd be eliminating would be Kim, and that might be enough to save One World.
Well, here, let me get to a couple of contenders before
go ahead.
Get to yours. Without going to the one I chose. Because, I kind of went through this mental exercise, too. South Pacific was something I thought of.
Yeah, but you can't. That's Cochrane.
Yeah, so it takes out Cochrane, and I think, Emma would never forgive me for that. So that's the one thing.
Nor would I. I'm a Cochrane fan, too. I just, am not quite as attracted to him.
Again, for Cochrane only, frankly. Like, obviously there's some other, I like Dawn and all this, but if that season left, sans Cochrane, if I could, cheat and be like, they would have cast Cochrane another season, but no. So then I was thinking Caramoan. It wipes out Cochrane's win, but whatever. He could come back another season. But, the 10 new people in that season were complete nothings, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll ever see them again, and I don't care, right?
Right.
And then even, the people that came back, we did not need to double down on Philip or Brandon Hance or Corinne. We didn't need to bring these people back into our lives and make them relevant again. It takes away Francesca's, being, cruelly voted out twice. So the tough loss is you lose Cochrane's win, and then you lose some of the fun in the middle there with Malcolm stuff. But again, with Malcolm, he could have come back in a better season, right? The very next season. Him and his drunk brother could have been up in the piece. So
that's true.
That was one, but I have a different one for my winner. But I'll let you get back to some, your contenders.
The other one, honestly, it's probably Redemption Island. And you look at the rest of that cast, is it so bad that you lose Boston Rob's victory? Really, the big loss here would be Andrea. I guess if you're into the entertainment Philip provided, maybe that's a loss for you. I liked Franny, but you get her for one episode. Well, I guess there was Redemption Island, so she was in more than one, but you're only getting a few minutes of Franny. I don't know that it's worth saving Redemption Island.
Yeah, so I was thinking of that too, and everybody would be like, oh, this must scandalize Andy. It was like, no, they could bring Boston Rob back next season to win. Frankly, if I knew that was the last time we'd see Boston Rob, maybe I'd want him to be on a better season than that one too.
Yeah, and so I think, are you in agreement with me then? It's Redemption Island?
No, I have a better one.
Go for it.
One that because the thing we keep worrying about and thinking about is like the butterfly effect, right? You get rid of this, then maybe other great things will happen.
Yep.
Obviously, the first instinct was Guatemala because like nobody's ever come back. But there's another season that I know we could eliminate to no ill effects because Survivor has basically tried to eliminate it from existing already, and that's Thailand.
Damn, that's a good one. I don't know how that even didn't cross my mind.
So obviously, Xian came back from All Stars. Who cares?
Yep.
That could, she was whatever on All Stars. Replace her with, anybody, really. But, it could have been Dina from Amazon. It could have been T-Bird from Africa. Like, it could have been anybody. Like, Survivor tries to already make us forget that Thailand ever happened. I actually, respect Brian Heidick's win as one of the better wins, but I don't like it, and I'd be fine if it never happened. So, excise Thailand from the record, and nobody would be sad about that. Not a single person.
Yeah, I think that's probably the pick.
Yeah, I understand why you go to Redemption Island, and, I'm not fully objecting to it. But, like, the other benefit of Thailand is it's so long ago that, like, there's no innovation from that season.
Yeah, and then also, like you said, we've never seen any characters other than Xian, players, I guess you should call them, other than Xian coming back from that season. And, yeah, there was some ugliness in that season that we also don't really need to see.
So there you go. That's the answer. Definitively. All right, our next comes from Streets Ahead. He actually has a two-part question. He has a question about Survivor, and then he has a question not about Survivor. And we like this because we're going to try and fit in one question a week that is not about Survivor. So if you want to, get in on this, that's the easy, fast way, is try to think of something ridiculous to let us talk about things that aren't Survivor. All right, so Survivor question. How likely do you think it is that David and Ken will get Paul out? And how likely is it that it's done with the idol? He thinks that right now they're both strong possibilities. What about you?
I think the idol would be utilized, but I don't know that it would be played. It might be that they negotiate with some other people using David's idol to get Paul out. Or it may be, because we're getting some sort of tribe shakeup in the next episode, maybe they don't even have to do that. Maybe just the numbers are going to break in their favor and they could get Paul out, assuming they're still on the same tribe as him.
Yeah, I think more likely is that they will succeed against Paul. Because, we have to figure out why that scene was in there. Now, contrary to popular belief, not every scene pays off in Survivor. Think of the great battle between Stephen Fishback and Andrew Savage that amounted to nothing. Absolutely nothing. There was no payoff to that story. Don't try to tell me that there was. They both were eliminated for completely different reasons. Nobody got the better of the other one. They were voting together the night that Andrew Savage left.
It was part of Savage's winner edit, though.
Absolutely it was. I read an awesome article about that on the internet. So it could just be about, David and Ken's bond. It could be the beginning of, the clear David winners edit. But I do think that they will survive Paul, outlast Paul. Because I think it's also like, why does the show set Paul up as the obstacle? For one, maybe because it's true. I think, enough people agreed with Ken's premise that Paul was in charge. But I think you don't get that and if he doesn't become an obstacle for them to overcome one way or another. So I do think they are involved with getting him out. But to your point, I don't know if it needs to be with the idol.
All right. And part 2 of Streets Ahead's question. So we mentioned it was from Streets Ahead?
Yes.
Okay. In honor of Andy's Oilers jersey from that first podcast episode you guys did, thoughts on the Hall trade and the new member of the Oiler family, Hunter?
I'm glad you asked this because, as an Oiler fan, I should put it like, yes, I'm not a big hockey fan in general, despite my Canadianness, and that's because I am an Oiler fan. They're the only team I care about. There was a time in my life when they were probably the sports team I most cared about, but they suck. They're awful, and they've been awful forever. And, some people would be like, oh, see, he is a bandwagon fan. He abandons people when they suck. But, like, the Oilers had the, bad timing of sucking when I barely have any time for, like, leisure activities. And life is too short to spend the few ones I have on, like, what is the worst organization in all of sports.
Yeah, you gotta pack in some more Lakers losses.
Well, the thing is, I like the NBA in general more. So, like,
Sure.
I can watch other teams. Whereas, like, because the Oilers were probably the one I identify with because it's the only one that has ever been like a home team for me, even though they aren't now, nor have they been most of my time. I can't cheer for other teams. I hate all other teams, right? Whereas for basketball, it's like, oh, cool, the Warriors are doing well, or I'd really like to watch Dirk Nowitzki or something like that. But the Oilers are the worst organization in sports, and his question about the Hall trade and the newest member of the Oiler family, same answer, same confirmation. This proves that they are the worst organization in sports, and more so than the trade, which, for people that don't know, they traded former number 1 overall pick, which was one of their 4 number 1 overall picks, which has not made them any better, winning 4 number 1 overall picks in the lottery, like in 5 years or something. They traded him away for like an average defenseman because they're stupid. But that honestly doesn't even bother me as much as the abomination that is Hunter the freaking Lynx. He is the new mascot that they unveiled, I believe, this week. And if you haven't seen this because you're Americans and you don't care about hockey, you need to search Hunter mascot Oilers and be horrified. Like, this shows why they're such a bad organization. Not just that they lose or they got bad players or the GM doesn't know anything. Like, on a basic fundamental level, the easiest thing, like, they can't even get the picking of a mascot right. Cause what's a mascot's job? To make kids happy.
Well, New Orleans Pelicans beg to differ.
But they had to change it after their horrifying one.
They
and
did.
That horrifying bird would, like, die of fear next to this lynx. And, like, to prove my point, I sent you a picture of this so that you could have an opinion that I will at some point let you voice. I sent you a picture tonight, and then so it was still on my computer screen as I was setting up. My 3-year-old sees it. It's like, kitty cat, is he bad? Or is he a bad guy? It's a terrifying thing. They got the eyes all, slanted like he's ready to kill your child. Like, the only value of a mascot, especially in hockey, it's not like he's going out there dunking basketballs during timeouts. Hockey's a sport where it's played on ice. The mascot doesn't get on the ice, and there isn't really time for it. It's a constantly moving sport. Commercial breaks are fairly short, and, the intermission is when everybody goes to the lobby. So they mostly just kind of walk around the crowd, hug some kids, and do some bits for the scoreboard. So you don't even need one, really. But if you're going to have one, it should be something that children want to hug.
Well, they don't eat your children. They eat the opposing team's children. That's what the value of that mascot is.
Yes, so we can kill your children if you don't cheer for us.
Yes.
How do you screw that up? You have one job. You should, when somebody pointed out, it's like, this will terrify your little children. Get it away from me. But no, then they stick it on their stupid orange jersey.
It's almost like they need someone who's good at marketing to work for them.
But they can't because they're just a bunch of hillbilly good old boys from backwater Alberta, and that's what make all their decisions. What's dumb is like, that's hockey. Like, it's a weird thing about hockey is like, whenever there's like a coaching or GM position open, suddenly a top candidate is somebody who played for that organization. Like, wow, how lucky they are that the best person for their job happened to, shoot pucks into a net for them. Like, because they're so dumb. And, obviously most Americans listening to this, or even our Brits, like, you don't think about the Oilers as the worst organization in sports, because you don't think about the Oilers, but I promise you, they're worse than the Cleveland Browns. They're worse than, the Philadelphia 76ers. They're just terrible.
Wow. I don't think that, America was prepared for that hockey rant. There's probably some American hockey fans. I've never met any, but I bet they exist.
Sure. Oh, come on. The Panthers, they're a team.
Yeah, I occasionally remember that there's a Florida hockey team.
Name a single player in the history of ever that has played for the Florida Panthers.
Oh, I can. Rob Niedermeyer?
There you go. Sure. Yeah.
Yes. I could not name a second.
No. There was a few places you could have gone with that, Rob, so I was interested where you were going. But yes,
okay.
I believe he might have been the captain to the team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals.
I wouldn't know.
No.
All right, so there you go. There you have it. That's our mailbag for this week. Let's do some predictions for next week.
Yeah, so first off, I guess we should decide that what do we think this twist, as promised, will be?
We had a suggestion on our website, which is purplerockpodcast.com, early plug. Black Dynamite, one of our commenters, who also met Zeke, said that his thought is that it will be one tribe of Gen Xers, one tribe of millennials, and then they'll do a 3-3 split and make a third tribe that's mixed between those two groups. I like that. I hope that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it's going to definitely be the 3-tribe thing like they did in Cambodia, But I do like the idea that it's not just going to be a full mix-up. So I agree. I hope that. Like, originally I was like, okay, yeah, they're going from 2 to 3, just like they did when they're at 18. Because otherwise it'd be weird to swap up. Obviously, it could not necessarily be a swap. I do believe that there's going to be interaction. Could be like, oh, if some of you are going to get together and talk to each other. But that's something they do like 15 years ago. I don't think they bring people together unless they're swapping them. Which is why I could see like not just like a random draw or something like he suggested. Maybe it's the old pick a few members from your tribe to go over there. And then once they get there, like, yep, you're the new tribe.
Yeah, I feel like people wouldn't fall for that anymore though.
Well, it's more like, yeah, they might know it's coming, but you got to do it anyway, right?
Sure.
It's not like you're just like, nope, opting out. It's like, yeah, something you're going to do it. What could be interesting then, if that's the case, is now that everybody knows that, is like the misfits go, right? It's like, well, you guys are the ones that are not. And like, wouldn't a tribe of like Adam, Zeke, David, Ken, Cece, and then whoever else they throw in there with Adam and Zeke, hopefully Michaela, like that'd be the best tribe.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a tribe where I'd be like, hey, I would consider buying that buff. I don't actually buy buffs.
No.
I'm not one of those Survivor fans.
So yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. Now, typically, if we're anticipating a swap, we would dump the whole predict one person from each tribe. But since they're generations, let's take a crack at it. Which of the olds do you think would be most likely to go, even though we doubt that we know the configuration that they'll be in?
If there's some kind of swap, mix-up, whatever, unless it remains just a Gen X tribe, or actually, maybe even if it remains a Gen X tribe, Paul would be my pick.
Yeah, you just think that's the story they've introduced, and yeah, maybe Poochie Santa isn't a long-term story?
Exactly. He's going to go back to his home planet.
For me, I'm going to just go with the pattern that the math so far has established and say it's going to be Lucy. And then the show will be investigated by the ACLU.
Uh-huh. What pattern is that again? Actually, never mind.
I think we all know what pattern that is so far.
That's right. Okay, so how about for the Millennials, who would be the most likely target?
So this one I'm leaning into the idea that like some kind of swapping, realigning of tribes is going to happen. And I think Figgy is not going to be saved again. I think she'll be separated on some level from people who have saved her, and I think she will find a way to annoy new groups that she's in or new configurations that she's in and get voted out. Because I think she's annoying.
Well, my pick will probably disappoint the internet again. I think it'd be Hannah.
Because?
I think she would be on the outs with Zeke, Adam. It depends where she ends up, but they're not going to be huge fans of her. And I feel like some of that other side that she voted with wouldn't necessarily be huge fans of her. So they're not going to stick their necks out to save her.
Right. Or yeah, if she wound up in some kind of mix, it would just be the same like reason why I picked her in the first week. It's like, well, you're the person that sucks at things, so you're gone.
Sure. All right, let's do some plugs. As I mentioned, we've got purplerockpodcast.com. We have our fantasy game going. All the teams are locked. We've got just under 150 of them this season.
And how many teams lost, Mari?
75-ish or 60 something. I don't know. It was somewhere in the range of 45%.
Delicious. That's fantastic. So. I don't even play the Fantasy Survivor because, I want to keep my analysis pure to my own personal biases instead of fantasy-based biases. But I still love it. I love it so much.
We also do live blog every week, and we are getting a crap ton of comments. I thought maybe it was just going to be a first week aberration. Nope, we're getting a whole lot. Our audience is apparently very large. It's so surprising compared to what I thought we would be at this point.
Yeah, so come check it out and join the best party on the internet. As we said, we want to do mailbox segments every week, so if you have questions for us about this week's episode, about Survivor history, or about whatever that you think it might be interesting to hear our opinions on, and maybe you'll realize now, hockey is not one of those.
Nope.
You can send us tweets at Purple Rock Pod. You can email us, purplerockpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to follow us individually, I'm Purple Rock Andy.
I'm Purple Rock John.
And you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Anybody use Google Play? We were just happy to get on something that they debuted. We didn't check really to see if anybody uses it.
I have an Android phone, and I still don't use it.
Well, I mean, you don't need to subscribe to the podcast. I'm going to force you to listen to all of this really carefully and take out all the parts we didn't want you to have.
And bleep the things that we might have said. I think we actually made it through this week. We didn't say a f***ing thing that I have to edit out.
And before we go, I just wanted to send a shout out to that other guy.
You mean Scott?
No, the other one.
Don't know who you're talking about. We were running out of time. Just hit the theme music.
That's what it's like when a woman wants a baby.